Allow me to now segue into a panel discussion that will be moderated by Christiane Haziyo, who is the program manager at the European Union Delegation to Zambia and COMESA. Christiane, please do take a seat. Let me just briefly introduce her. She has over a decade of expertise in trade facilitation and regional integration. She has specialized training in sustainability and resource efficiency. And she holds a master's degree from the University of St. Louis of Brussels. And at the EU Delegation to Zambia and COMESA, she's currently in charge of the Switch to Circular Economy in East and Southern Africa program, which is focusing on plastics, packaging, and electronic e-waste. So Christiane will introduce the panelists. Over to you.
Thank you so much. I have the honor to have with me here very interesting people to take us through today's question, or rather subject, that will be looking into how Zambia's sustainability economic growth, or how can we accelerate green growth and to shift to a more circular economy. So I call upon Angela, please, from GGGI, which is the Green Growth Institute, Global Green Growth Institute. So please, free sitting. So we'll be looking at your expertise in supporting Zambia in carbon market readiness, in green growth strategy, EPR, etc., all for a sustainable living. I also call upon Paola Gasparini, my colleague at the EU Delegation. She's one of the reasons we are here today, as she's managing the program Green Tech for Circular Economy. And it's a matter of engaging in and tapping into new technology to move towards circular economy in Zambia. I would like to also call Mr. Wala Chabala. Mr. Chabala is from Ramanzo Advisory, and he looks into corporate strategy. I think it's very much on point in today's question, and we hope on your expertise to answer some of the questions. Last but not least, our very own Andrew, who just took us through this market study. And Andrew being an agronomist by profession, right, correct? And we are also surrounded by economists. So we go straight into the first question. So I think here today we have an audience of private sector, think tankers, organizations that have already circular economy in mind as their priority. So how can specifically the private sector implement green and circular economy business models and adopt more green technology? So I'll turn first to Paola. Please, the floor is yours. We talked about public-private partnership, yes, but I think the private sector has a very big role to play. Thank you.
Yes, I think today we have seen a lot of business models, a lot of examples for private sectors. And first of all, I think we have to think the private sector looks for profit. And it's not enough to say that be sustainable is nice for the environment. We need to make sure that the private sector understands that there is a profitability behind working on a circular business model. So I think first of all we need to make private sector aware of what is circular economy, what are the advantages in terms of business opportunities, in terms of reduction of costs. And after all this, we need to support the private sector. We saw that is a business that is profitable, but is also considered riskier than other sectors. And also the profits come in a longer period of time. So all these factors implies that we have to have also a conducive ecosystem for private sector. In this sense, I'm particularly proud that the EU is really in the forefront here in Zambia on these things, because as Christiane said, with the Green Tech Circular Economy project that we started last year, we are trying to tackle some of these issues. First of all, we are supporting enterprise that want to transit to circular economy models. And we support it with technical assistance, but also with financing support. And this is a way to show that circularity is possible, is profitable, and makes sense, not only to other private sectors, but to policy regulators, to financiers, and this is just the first part of our job, because we are also preparing another project that is will complement this work on the private sector, exactly working on the other aspects, this that we talk a lot about this morning: collaboration, partnership, and regulation. So let's say the EU is understanding not only the needs of the private sector, but also that several ingredients are necessary for a successful transition to circular economy.
Thank you very much, Paola, for this insightful first part of the answering the question. Now we turn towards Mr. Chabala. Same question. As a strategist, I think we've heard from Paola how the EU is engaged in technical assistance, in showcasing that it's actually possible to turn to circularity. Your take on this, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me start by saying that I actually wear two hats. The one hat is that I am an economist. And so I do see things from a macroeconomic perspective, but I also, as I say, do practice corporate strategy. And so from that perspective, I see things from a micro business strategy point of view. One of the things we're going to come back to, I think, in the second question, but let me just mention it here, is that where we see that we're having a low adoption of circularity, we should consider that as a market failure. And as a market failure, we're going to need to, whichever economic system you want to pursue, whether it's free markets or de jure, you're going to need to put interventions in place to address market failure. And some of the things that Paola mentioned talk to that. But I think we'll come back to that when we talk about policy measures. I have a slide, I have a picture that I wanted put up there. Manda, yeah. Unintended consequences of circularity is what I call that. This is a business pursuing circularity. Thank you, Manda. Ardently recovering raw materials from one business, processing that raw material into a viable product, and then what they do with their waste from that goes on the road, and that made the road very slippery, and those were the unintended consequences. So businesses need to think about circularity holistically, systematically. What that says is that you can't think of business in like two parts. The one part is the linear model, the conventional linear model, and the other part, you try to practice circularity. The whole strategy of the business has got to embrace circularity. And obviously, again, to what Paola was saying, there are challenges why businesses don't do that. One of those is, as I said, because it's a market failure, we need some form of intervention. Most intervention is in terms of, as the deputy head of Finnish embassy said, it's in terms of stick. We need more carrots. If we can find more carrots to put into the mix, we'll find more businesses adopting green technology, sustainable practices. But I also think that one level we need to engage for intervention is the associations of businesses. Because, look, businesses have been practicing what they practice because that's what they know to practice, right? The linear business model. It requires a whole mindset shift to start thinking circularity. To try to engage businesses one-on-one, hundreds and thousands of them that are there, isn't exactly tenable. But going through the associations, through the business industry bodies, I was talking to Paul over tea, using chambers of business, we can motivate businesses more to adopt green technology and sustainable practices from a strategy practice point of view. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chabala. I turn to Angela.
I'm not sure how much more you would like me to add. I think from our perspective as an organization, our main interaction is with governments. And one of the things we try and support is to try and get governments to put in that enabling environment. So, and that includes the carrots and the sticks and the policies and all sorts of things that would allow this to be possible. But on the other hand, it's also a lack of information. That not many people, when they think about business, think that waste or recycling or even beyond that are sexy businesses. They're much more interested in doing other things. So it's also a lack of information and a lack of knowledge of what is actually possible. But from a macro level, I think one of the key things is that you have to have the infrastructures in place to encourage these businesses to find it attractive and to feel this an interest to be there. Like you said, if you want to have people recycling, but we don't have the infrastructure at the end of the road, then where's the incentive to do it? And the same goes to have financial structures, the financial models that are available to support businesses to invest or to participate in these sectors. So, and even to afford the technology, to be able to take it on board. But, there's also a broader macro thing of even how we plan the country. How do we plan our growth? How do we plan our cities? When we plan our cities, are we thinking about circularity as part of the process? The logistics, the moving between each other, how is waste management going to be done? But also, if we were to think even beyond that, if we talk about greening our industries or greening our manufacturing processes and all sorts of things, are we creating markets for that? We can't say, oh, let's recycle and build, these nice environmentally friendly bricks or whatever else you want to make. And then on top of that, there's not even any policy to say when you build your house or when you build your building that you must use sustainable materials or recycled materials. So governments need to create that broader infrastructure that's required to, and that's what's going to start making this process attractive to private sector.
Thank you so much, Angela. And I'm happy you touched upon regulations and policies, and it was also mentioned by Mr. Chabala. So my next question is, and I will start with Andrew, because I didn't give you the floor yet, is what are the most urgent regulations and policies that Zambia needs for this sustainable change to circular economy? And sorry, I will quote we listened to Colombia. They talked about policies that are not over regulations and that are smart. So we keep that in mind in our answers. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So my perspectives will come from some of the experiences that we've gathered at Tandem interacting with the market. Because to implement most of the circular economy projects and activities, we love to hear what the market is saying and what people are saying. So to respond to the question that you just raised, one of the big ones that have come up and sort of limited some investment that we've seen in the circular economy space for some of the players that would want to enter the market is policies around security of investments. So for example, if you want to set up a facility to process waste into a final product, I think there was a speaker earlier this morning at the World Circular Economy Forum that said these both capital intensive and they require huge capex at the get-go. So how does someone invest so much money and has no guarantee that they recover their investments? And then on top of that, how do they ensure that when they set up that facility, they are guaranteed to get the raw material, which is the waste? So for Zambia, this has been sort of the area that is a bit difficult. And there's some policy that can support. We already identified there's enough waste that is generated. So there's policy that encourages separation, for example, and that separation unlocks volumes of waste that can be guaranteed to supply would-be investors or would-be operators in the space. So that is the one big one that we heard about that has sort of limited players to come in. But the other sort of smaller ones as well have been around just making clarity on what other incentives. I think incentives is a big one. Are there for would-be players to participate. So what benefits are there for them? If I want to set up a business, what benefits do I get? So those are, I think, among the two ones that I can speak about for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. So I'll go back to you, Angela. And I know GGGI is working on one of, I believe, the key regulations, that is the extended producer responsibility. I've already given you part of the answer. So how to make sure this is actually implemented in Zambia, in your views?
That's the first time hearing of that. But no, I think obviously we support we support the countries with developing these policies and regulations to put in place, and of course one of the things we would like to see is the implementation part being more effective, because I think I can safely say that Zambia and many other countries have a whole long list of strategies and plans and policies that are really pretty good. But when it comes to implementation, that's where we're failing. And part of that is also because when we look at implementation, it all boils down to how do we attract investment, and that boils down to finance. And finance on this continent and access to cost of capital and all of that is a real problem on the continent. And I think if there's ever going to be some significant change to sort of facilitate that process, we will definitely see that in the financial sector. And we're actually currently working in that space as well to try and look at how we can have some kind of financing mechanism and facility that not only supports companies to prepare attractive and bankable projects, but also to understand where the finance is and how to attract that finance to be able to now proceed with implementing the strategies and plans that are already in place.
Thank you very much, Angela. And I think what Joe said is music in the ears of many innovators and people here who have great initiatives but lack funding. And access to finance is one of the impediments to transitioning to circular economy. So Paula, for you, in an ideal world, what's the burning policy or regulation you put in place in Zambia?
Well, I was thinking about two things. I think we have seen that circular economy speaks a lot about innovation. And innovations brings my mind immediately to startups, for instance. So I think the possibility to regulate and to incentivize startups is very important for Zambia, because it will create more dynamism in the economy and probably speed up also the process of diversification of the economy. Plus adding, finding a new modality, new technology to work in circularity. But the other things I think that is important is also that the government could be kind of leading in showing the way. And what I want to say with this is, for instance, the public administration is still one of the main buyers in Zambia. It would be possible very little to ensure that some procurement regulation requires products that are recyclable or products that are reusable. These type of things that the buildings are gradually introducing efficiency in water, efficiency in energy, and so on. This leading by example is, I think, very, very important. And another aspect I think important is ensuring that there is this dialogue between private and public sector. Is really fruitful to share idea and dialogue on how to solve the problems. And here is, of course, there are the two parts. There is the private and the public. But I think the government can has a big role to play in fostering dialogue, fostering dynamics that are positive. I will stop here.
Thank you, Paola. So, Mr. Chabala, we've heard from Andrew that he talked about regulations linked to security for investment. Angela mentioned finance to allow investment in circular economy. And Paola just talked about innovation and, I would say, efficient procurement. What's your take on this?
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, what we're dealing with here is a market failure and requires interventions at many levels to be able to address this. And yes, finance is one of those. Again, a chat I was having with somebody over tea, we're talking about the Securities and Exchange Commission, which is the regulator for capital markets, having a thing called a sandbox, where you can come up with concepts, ideas for financing things like green, sustainable ideas, businesses, how the regulations can be softened so that you're able to get away with what normally would not be allowed for a business coming to the market. So those kind of ideas are things that can be done. But I think the other dimension of financial incentive is tax. We've all spoken about the investment side, but tax is also a big disabler, if you want. So the same way that we heard from the Brazil video where somebody spoke about getting the cost of financing reduced as you hit certain milestones in circularity, I think the same approach could be taken for tax. So that there are tax incentives that make you pursue achieving certain goals and milestones in circularity as you do your business. But I think the overarching point we should take away is that policy, from a government point of view, usually regulation is policing. I think we should turn this around and think about it as an enabler. We need to have regulations, policies in place that are enablers to be able to achieve the goals of circularity in the economy. And if we did that, I think we'll find that we're addressing all the key points in making sure that businesses can embrace circularity and it can take off in a big way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I have one more question, which is a promise, I would say. Let's say we meet again 1 year from now. Sorry?
Which we'll do.
Which we would do, definitely. We might be in India. So I would like to ask you, what is it that we'd like to see have changed in Zambia 1 year from now for the private sector when we talk about circular economy? And here I'm talking about what the private sector can drive as a change, starting from today to next year. Over to you.
Right. So one of the things that challenge adoption of circularity models is the hurdles, if you want, to adoption by the market. The good example of that is trying to migrate people from using charcoal for energy in the home to other sustainable means. You find there's a plethora of solutions that have been put in the market for this, but all of them fail because of the hurdles they actually have in terms of adoption. So for me, what I would like to see 1 year from now is that the hurdles for adoption of alternative sustainable means of energy in domestic use is reduced so much that we can start phasing out the use of charcoal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We hold on to that. Paola.
What I would like to see next year for the private sector is, first of all, more business in circularity and in that sense, more informations on business that are working circularity. So maybe work that could be carried out by the association of private sector in defining some KPI and some statistics that could incentivize also others to follow the example that we saw this morning. Replicating, adapting is a way the private sector move into these areas. And the other things I would like to see is fostering collaboration between private companies and academia to promote innovation. Some innovative tools coming out as a result of collaboration that is a mantra, I would say, for circular economy.
Thank you very much, Paola. So what do we see for you, Angela, as a change from here to next year?
First, that Andrew won't have to explain what circular economy is to us again next year. Everyone should already know that now. But jokes aside, for me, I would really like the opportunity. I've been in Zambia for a couple of years and I've met a lot of very interesting small businesses that have really great ideas, but I would love that in a year from now, if things like your project and a couple of other activities happen that will enable some of these projects to actually scale up, and actually start seeing potential for a lot of these private companies to actually scale up and be able to even source their own financing and not have to wait for grants or little loans, but actually be able to go out there. And also to find out what happened with Trade Kings.
Andrew.
All right, thank you. What I would like to see in a year from now is something related to what you said. Today, interacting with some of the businesses around, most of them are still around understanding what a circular economy is, and that's what prompted, I think, Andrew's presentation to say circularity is not recycling. There's so much more. There are other strategies of a circular economy, 9 of them, apart from recycling, that could be explored. So a year from now, I would like to hear businesses, entrepreneurs that are in the space talking about other forms or strategies of a circular economy, talking about maybe it's office space sharing or shared logistics and all these different exciting examples. I'm looking forward to hearing how we move from this. Here it's understandable, it's a first of its kind, so we're trying to understand the basics, but from a year from now, we should be in a whole different space. So I'm excited for that.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Shabala, Paola, Angela, and Andrew for this very interesting discussion. So I hand over to the moderator. Thank you.